start streaming. And we are live yet again.
Yet again.
And again and again and again.
Charles Kos, meet my friend Killendel.
And again. Hey, how's it going?
G'day.
Okay.
So I guess I mean I was really kind of slam triggered off of anthropomorphy. Uh I was thinking, electric universe. Um I think it's all just made of consciousness, or what is electricity and magnetism is the force of consciousness. And when we anthropomorphize, I think what we're doing is identifying that element, that underlying ultimate truism, that my environment is also its own conscious thing that a lot of people call God, but it's a little bit deeper than that, because the word God has been, it's been coined up. It's been meant to mean something that's has a personality, and when you're all of the universe, including all of the people in it, like it's not really like a personality per se. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like that much of a collective, like rocks and shit. But it's like all we are is just basically like a figment in the imagination of God. And like we are ourselves components of God that he uses from himself to create the universe. And it's an illusion because it's just like a figment within the imagination. Like reality really doesn't exist, but the collective force of nothingness wanted existence. It wanted to like become self-aware, and in that journey of self-awareness and nothingness, it created like ultra high frequency, um, like forces. And those are, I think, what is like the force of consciousness. It's what's peering through our minds, and our brains are, in my opinion, conductors of electricity. I think people, and it's proven, the hundredth monkey, that thought is, it's like a spectrum that we can all access, and sometimes we access the same thoughts as other people at the same time, because that's what our minds are open to, based on the values and the principles that we can think in terms of. So some people are going to be open to thoughts in the atmosphere, like the Wright brothers trying to accomplish flight. Around the same time, how many other people did that? Like that's a known thing.
Well, you said a lot there. Some of it I actually agree with. Some of it sounded very Deepak Chopra esque.
Yes, I agree.
What, I don't even know who that is.
You don't know who Deepak Chopra is?
I'm not sure like what his message is all about at all now.
He's a new age pseudo scientific or pseudo intellectual who uses a lot of scientific buzzwords to put out his message of consciousness and unity, and he tries to interject and intertwine a lot of scientific terminologies like quantum entanglement and the quantum realm and how it relates to consciousness as if he knows what he's talking about, and he doesn't. He doesn't. And it's very pseudo intellectual. It's word salad. It's dazzling because in the middle of his sentence he'll say things similar to what you said. It's that how he'll throw in like what you said. Our brains are electromagnetic machines that they operate on electricity, and the hundred monkey theory, and which is a real thing, by the way. Um, this proves this and this proves that, and theory
So you
proves.
you are you objecting the hundredth monkey
No, no, no,
theory?
no. I'm telling you that is a real thing. That's actually been shown. Their experiments, tests, and studies have shown that it's actually a real thing. That not just in monkeys, but human beings as well.
Right. Right. And that's so when I said it that way, you made it seem as though I said it in a way that I would already be supposed to be false just because I said it's a real thing, by the way. But then you yourself just responded to that when I asked if you would object to the 100th monkey syndrome.
Well, the 100 monkey concept, again, it is a real thing. I recognize it as a real thing. It's a real
And all
observation.
I said is I believe the brain is a conductor of electricity.
Well, there was something you said earlier. I was trying my best to hold it in my mind and pay attention to you while not forgetting it and not interrupting you because I didn't want to be rude. But I wanted to hold this thing in my mind, something that you said, and now it's gone because it's too far removed. But you said something about the nothingness, the universal nothingness
Oh, yes. Right.
wanted to experience itself. I'm
How would I
paraphrasing.
know that? Right. How would I know that? Right. So like in the spans of creation, I mean, I wouldn't know it, right? I'm only speculating. Of course, I don't know anything. Same with anybody else talking on these subjects, but this is where I've come to. And the very first creation in all of creation is the individuation or the self realization of the concept that is nothingness, right? Like there was nothingness before nothingness that didn't even realize it wasn't nothing. But then there was nothingness that realized the number zero is what I'm talking about. It's an archetypal concept. And zero is a vacuum for every potentiate. And so but it has no energy to it, right? It's where does it create anything? And its only creation is in its own hyperbolic self-analysis, its own creation of mind.
Stop right there. Stop right there.
Right.
You said it.
Yeah.
It is a definition of a thing.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a thing that has no energy. That is basically zero. It is nothing. How can you have nothing and call it an it?
Because it's a meridian within a realm of relativity.
Now you sound like Deepak Chopra. What the fuck does that mean?
So it's it's relative unto itself. Like when you look at a compass, it has 360 degrees,
Okay?
but there's also zero. Zero is one of them. It actually has 359, and the 360th degree is zero. And it's
It's the alpha and the omega, the starting and the ending point.
right. Like you can always reference back to the idea of nothingness. So it's its own. And in electric universe theory is what it's talking about is like the battle between electricity and magnetism, the force of polarities, and reality shows us this in every dimension, happiness and sadness. That our whole life is a series of polarities, and that's how we perceive it.
My my
Um,
my question at this point is you bring up electricity and magnetism, but there is a third factor that it comes in, and that's gravity. They are all interrelated.
well,
So
gravity
now,
is just a form of magnetism, in my opinion.
Gravity
well,
is, in fact, Amy, I'm not sure if you've seen Walt Thornhill's presentation on gravity, and you really should if you're not familiar.
I'll hunt for it then.
I'll find it and then I'll give it to you
Oh, excellent, excellent.
because the way Walt Thornhill describes gravity in terms of electromagnetism is so fundamental and easy to understand. He explains it in a way that makes so much sense
Awesome.
that
Looking forward.
I mean, I'm no PhD physicist, but it's certainly for me pretty hard to refute or it's so easy to understand. How I mean, it's just like boom in your face. It's like, oh, I get it now. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, there it is. He
Okay.
explains gravity. Think of I'll try to put it into words, and I'll try not.
Density is a huge part too, though. Like, does he talk about
No.
density too?
Yes. Yes. Yes, he does. Mass, not density, but in terms of mass, and it's also it's an effect of electricity. So think of it this way: think of an electron. I mean, your symbol, your icon, Killendel, is a perfect circle. You've got the yin and the yang. But ignore the graphics inside. Think of a perfect circle. Now, think of the nucleus of an atom in the center of that circle. Just look at your icon and imagine a nucleus right in the center. Now, I'm going to highlight you at least so that I hope everybody else can see your icon without interruption. Now imagine that nucleus moving from the center, right? The outside where you have the white band is the electron shell. Now imagine the nucleus not in the center, but imagine that black dot in the middle of the white yin. Imagine the nucleus relocating itself off center where the black dot is. You follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. That's gravity.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Probably no, because I'm not Walt Thornhill. But the way he describes it is that when God, I'm probably going to mess this up terribly. That when things attract themselves to each other through electromagnetism, that the nucleus of an atom will shift its position from center to off center, closer to one side of the electron shell. And that is an indication of mass and gravity. That's your vector. That's the direction of gravity. It's
Okay.
it's a
Okay.
byproduct.
So
It's a
are
byproduct
you
of electricity,
saying,
no matter what, every time.
and that is a product of like the rotation of the Earth, or the direction that the Earth is moving in a grander scale of the solar system?
Well,
Or is it relative to like you standing on the Earth?
it's
So is it like constantly to the side of us right now? You know, is it like on the side of us that's back relative to the rotation of the planet? Like we're being pulled on this rotation in a way?
think of think of every atom in your body as it's being pulled towards the center of the Earth. Every atom in your body is has the nucleus is offset. It's not in the center of its little electron shell. It's slightly
It's
offset
it's
towards
pulled towards the center of the Earth.
right. It's a product or byproduct of electromagnetism.
All right, so try this on for size. What if the center of the Earth would then be like the true center of ourselves? We would just be a center, like an extension of that, and like our eyes is like looking out the bottommost part of ourselves.
I don't know what that means.
You know how like a computer motherboard has all the switch components on the back of it?
Switch components on the back of it. No, what
Like
are you talking
like for
about?
you to put in USB ports, Ethernet cables, all the cables go into the motherboard,
Okay,
but it's outside the back of a computer, right?
okay.
So you know those charts with like the feet, and it says how like the feet, when you massage this part of the foot, it affects this part of the body.
Yes, like acupuncture type charts.
Yes.
Uh, okay. Yeah.
So
Nodal
like
points.
is what I'm trying to get at is like we're an extension of the earth, right? like, like our feet connect to the ground, and it has all like these root points that correspond to like every part of the body, like the base of a plant's stem develops the flower.
Sure. I
But
mean, I've heard stuff like that, and I think there's probably something to it. I mean, when you,
but
I mean, I've done electrical like work. I used to.
okay.
I was an
So
apprentice. So I
so
understand the concept of electricity, and when you ground a circuit, it literally is literally going to the ground, the actual ground.
yeah,
The Earth is absorbing the negative energy or the return and the the flow of electrons as they return back to the Earth.
right. But we're talking about a much higher frequency grade, something that actually structures our reality right now. We're talking such high levels of frequency that are involved in the structure of our bodies and just the things that support our thoughts. We talked about the 100th monkey syndrome, talking about that the thing that supports our thoughts is more like a field, like an electromagnetic field. And
Yeah, stop
what
calling it a syndrome.
what do you mean?
The 100th monkey. I'm pretty sure it's not classified as a syndrome.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, it's a bad word. Um, but I'm ultimately trying to get at that. It seems like very obvious to me that we're this extension of the planet, which is used for its own greater purposes, whether we have our own conscious will and part in that or not. I think it, and that's, talking about things like the wheel of karma, energetics, just there's so many coincidences, and almost all of them center around people. We're just such a powerful force, and the realms that we deal in are so unique. I think that creation itself exists just to entertain life at the level that hominids throughout the universe entertain life with pleasures and pains and loves and heartbreaks. And that's it. That wheel itself, in and of itself, is the juice that makes it go at the end of everything. When things return to nothing for long enough, I think nothingness musters up the energy to do it all over again in an infinite variety of, you know, redefinitions of reality that may already be played out all at one time. Time may be irrelevant in that equation. And I think we're learning that, and we may be uh, able to pretty much have a heaven on earth like experience through the development of really deep understandings of the nature and inner workings of reality.
What do you think of
Uh,
all this, Charles? In the realms of consciousness and human interaction and our personal human experience and the experience of humans on Earth and particularly as consciousness is involved. What do you
Well, Killendel, you're a bloody genius. This is amazing stuff. I started reading about Deepak Chopra also in another window while listening to this. And yeah, it sounds like Deepak Chopra, yes. Because I was reading he actually integrates quantum mechanics with his own teachings, with his own Ayurvedic alternate medicine and living forever stuff. It's all state of mind kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm not altogether following it, but yeah, it's pretty clever stuff, Killendel.
I mean,
Yeah.
any like logical attacks, please go ahead.
It's very philosophical. It makes sense from if you're from a philosophical standpoint because it feels like it makes sense. I'm very scientific. Although Rufus says I prove stuff without proving it, a bit of speculation, which is good too. But the stuff you say is bloody good, and it makes sense on a very fundamental level. It's interesting, yeah.
Well,
Well, I like
so
Charles because he's not afraid to speculate. He's not afraid to think outside of the mainstream box, and so um,
I I got
I didn't
mad
mean
respect for that response. It
I
was a
didn't
great
mean that to be a
response.
dig on you, Charles.
No, that's right.
I meant it as a compliment.
That is, I took it as a compliment. Yeah,
Okay.
taking it out of the way. Yeah.
I'm a little worried he's not he's not mentioning something particular, I'd love to like chew the fat on something particularly, because I know that I'm not perfect. I'm, prone to logical errors, and over philosophizing is just my nature. Like it's what I do.
You
And
said
I am very scientific. I'm not, deep ND with this. I'm not gonna try and jump off a roof and commit myself to the hope that I might be able to, in that moment, fly like a bird. But I mean, I take it to the level of even like bioelectric issues. Like, I think the reason why the Bible says not to get tattoos and piercings is because it will prevent us from aligning with higher electromagnetic energies to create something like an inertia bubble by creating a counter-rotational force of the electromagnetic field of the auric body that everyone has. And it's totally conceivable. It's totally thought possible by me. Um, but I think we would have to be on a live enzyme diet to do it. I think we eat food that dampens our electromagnetic resonance. If you look into Carillion photography, they talk about this, and it seems to make a lot of sense to me.
I was just wondering what you would think of the spiritual experience that I had. And this was quite a number of years ago. And I do not remember what I was doing, but I do know that it was something mundane, like maybe washing dishes or folding laundry or something on that order. And suddenly I both expanded and contracted. And I expanded to the point where I was everything. And I do mean everything. All time, all space, all dimensions. And contracted to the point where I was nothing. No time, no space, no dimensions. And I don't know how long I was in that state. And I can't say when I returned because I never left. But when things were back down to where I normally operate, I couldn't bring back details like since I was you and I was everybody and everything and all planets and all suns and like everything, you know. At that moment, I could have told you what you were thinking, but there was just so much that, what any given one was thinking or doing or being wasn't what I was focused on, or not that I was really focused. But when I got back, none of that remained. But I did have a very keen awareness that has never left me that consciousness is God. Consciousness creates the now. Now is the only thing that's real. And we, as conscious I should say, all things are consciousness at some level of awareness. And we, therefore, as conscious and aware beings, are co gods, co creating the now. And it is from this that I have taken the idea that if enough of us decide to create better on our planet, we can do so. We are not powerless, which I get a lot of people telling me, oh, there's nothing we can do. We're stuck. It's like, yeah, if you take that attitude, I suppose you're right. But that isn't where I'm going. So I'm just curious what you make of that.
Me? What I
Yeah.
make of that?
Yeah.
Well, I personally identify with the expansion into the whole galaxy component.
Oh, it was
Not,
more than the galaxy, hun. It was
yeah,
the
no,
universe.
yeah, the universe. I know what you mean. I don't know
Infinite.
if I became the universe itself like that much, but it felt like I spanned many, many star systems. But I didn't get to the 0 point either, as well. But I remember when I had my experience, I was younger. But everything else you said, I pretty well, you could say, resonated with, corresponded with.
Okay.
I, I like the words. I like the feelings they invoke. I agree with them. I feel like I personally invest in that kind of idealism, excuse me. Um,
All right.
I, I I don't know what kind of perspective on it were you hoping I might put?
I just wanted whatever you said. So whatever you said was awesome and fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
The reason I asked about that is because when you said that there was this something that wanted to be and all of that, I mean, that's not really quite what I got from my experience. That we are indeed separate nodes of consciousness. Yes, we are all connected, but we also are able to have free will. Now, I know Rufus will dispute free will, but what I see is the free will to choose. And we can choose our behaviors. And if enough of us choose our behaviors well, we can create better here.
Well, to be honest
so
with you,
what?
to be honest with you, Amy, I might actually be starting to lean more towards compatibilism.
What is that? Define that for me, please.
Compatibilism is, if I'm not mistaken, it's the brainchild of the philosopher Daniel Dennett, contemporary modern. He's alive right now.
Mm.
Daniel Dennett is effing fucking brilliant. He described when he talks about free will, the concept of free will. He describes in his terms what he calls compatibilism, and this is where he accepts and acknowledges that the vast majority of all of our choices, our thoughts, our patterns, our desires, our emotions, our reactions are all governed by external forces, except that there is still some elusive underlying element where free will might still exist. There's something about our existence that still might allow for some element of free will.
Well, I'm certainly not going to dispute that a great deal of what we are and what we choose has to do with conditioning and education, or shall I say, lack thereof, in many cases.
Like, for instance, the sentence you just said right now
Mm,
was based on what I said.
yes.
So was that free will?
But I would
Well,
like
yes.
to. I have an argument here when you guys are through with your
I
thing.
I just want to say yes, that was free will, because I could have chosen not to say anything, but what you said inspired me.
That's right.
Okay. And it inspired me enough that I said, okay, I'm going to respond.
And the way Sam Harris describes not having free will, he describes that, you didn't choose your parents, your lineage, your bloodline. You didn't choose your DNA makeup.
Oh,
You don't choose the synapses patterns in your brain function. You don't choose any of those things. Thoughts appear in your mind outside of your control that you have no control over whatsoever. So where does free will fall in there?
I'm going to suggest that no, we don't have control over a great deal. However, we can consciously make choices on how we're going to behave. And
Oh,
that is where the free will comes in.
all right. Well, without trying to shift the conversation too much to, spend the 2 hours on free will, I just wanted to throw that in there that I may be shifting away from determinism and shifting more towards compatibilism,
Okay.
which is the idea of that there's literally both elements at play simultaneously.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff we have no control individually, no control over. I agree.
But there's a persistent
But we
element.
do have control over how we choose to behave.
What do you? So like, Rufus, are you saying like even like down to the word choice that you're not operating with a sense of free will?
Right.
I would seriously argue against that.
Yeah,
I would
good.
seriously argue.
Me
Like
too.
uh, like the word selection that I have at my disposal. Um, I have a tremendous amount of words
Well,
that I can.
let's do a quick thought experiment real quick. Um, conjure in your mind the name of a city. Don't say it out loud. Just conjure in your mind the name of any city in the world.
Okay.
Is it Paris?
No.
All right, that was I was just guessing.
It wasn't for me either.
Well, that's a pretty common one. But the point is, out of all the cities that you could have chosen, whichever one you did choose is irrelevant. How many cities are there in the world that you never knew the name of? Right? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, right? That you don't even know the names of these cities. So if you can't, if you don't know the names of those cities, that it's not in your capacity to choose.
Well, yeah, but that's
Wait.
that's
Wait
not
a minute.
lack
Wait a
of,
minute.
lack of data does not mean no free will. Within the data set that you have to work with, I say you have free will to choose.
All right, fair enough. Admittedly, I probably represented Sam Harris poorly just now.
That's okay. But if I ask a few questions, I'm sure you can maybe present it more. So I think like when it comes to free will versus determinism, it also boils back to my ultimate like spiritual belief of whatever this nothingness is, experiencing somethingness over the expanse of infinite time in an infinite variety of ways, which in one sense could be said to be done all at the same time, right? So like every moment in time that you're going through, you're actually going through a process of probabilities of the way that light bounces off of things. And that's a huge force. That's like being in a rowboat in the ocean, right? So like the sun, the winters, like the cosmic forces beyond your control, right? Like those are forces, but within that you have this very obvious seeming ability to navigate that of your own accord. Now, the argument could say that even the thoughts that you have are just a product of mathematical relationships in terms of values of those thoughts and how they've been instilled within you through like some kind of Pavlovian understanding of how like psychology works. And I just can't like it. Is that where you get behind it, Aaron? Or sorry, Rufus? Excuse me. Um, or is that am I lost? Can anyone hear me?
I can hear you.
I
Could
I
you
can hear you.
Okay.
could you just refine your question a little bit better?
Yeah. So, do you get behind determinism in the sense that it says that even your thoughts are the product of like mathematical relationships in terms of the values of ideas that you think in? So, like,
Your thoughts are. It would seem that your thoughts are the product of pre-existing conditions that you have no control over, and all of those conditions all culminate into a particular thought for which you have no control over. Like in a conversation like this, or any conversation, or even if you're sitting in an audience watching a movie or listening to a lecture, thoughts will wander into your mind outside of your own will or desire or intention. I mean, thoughts just pop into your head all the time. All kinds of stuff. And stuff that you would never think of. Stuff that you wouldn't act on, stuff that you wouldn't want to have your name attached to. Crazy stuff. We all have things that just pop into our minds at random points at any given moment, for which you have no control over whatsoever. You didn't
I,
build, and you didn't build your brain. You have no control over how much oxygen is being supplied to your brain. Well, you might have some control. You can breathe more, smoke less, whatever. But the fact is, you could wind the clock backwards. The clock of causality. You could wind that causality clock backwards to a point for which you had zero control over. And as that causality clock winds forward to who you are now, is again a product of for which you have zero control over.
I feel like that's a defeatist perspective. I feel like that's
Me
and
too.
the reason why I cannot see it that way is because um I I will not resign something to circumstances. I and because of that, I have achieved more than I would have been able to if I always just looked at it as a product of um,
Circumstance.
that I cannot overcome myself. And I really believe at the core of my being that the reason why that is because reality in itself is defiance to non-existence, and it's this confoundry in and of itself that it does exist. And to me, that is a defiance to the resignation of circumstances from like the most powerful degree to create everything we have now out of nothingness. However it was done took a tremendous amount of effort and will and pain and like bloodshed and tears and suffering, and it's all for the sense of contrast, and it's all necessary, and it's all done despite those pains, and some parts of reality even get off on it, feed into it.
All right,
And
I'll give you one more example. Then I want to get Charles's take on this. Sam Harris he gives another example. He is a neuroscientist, and he describes a case, and there are multiple like this. There's a guy with a brain tumor, and he doesn't know that he has a brain tumor. There's a guy who has a propensity towards violence, and he gets himself in trouble. He gets arrested. He winds up in prison. And while he's in prison, he starts experiencing terrible headaches. And eventually, they give him a CAT scan. They find out he's got a tumor. And it turns out he's got this tumor that's pushing on part of his brain that governs the control over impulse. And they do surgery. They remove the tumor. The pressure is gone, and now his impulse control is back to normal, and he no longer has violent tendencies. Where was his free will?
sorry, his free will.
Yeah, that's the
Um,
that's the
I'm
$64
not
million
saying
question.
nobody's saying free will is an all the time everything kind of thing. Free will is it's a leverage of consciousness over materia, reality.
That's a
And
you know what? I like the way you phrase that. That's good. I dig that.
I can I just add one last quick thing? Um, I used to suffer from chronic depression. And okay, you could say it was not within my control that I was introduced to the book Choice Theory by William Glasser, but I was introduced to it. And it took, I could have just tossed it off, but I made the choice to at least give it a try, whereby rather than deciding that there was nothing I could do, I decided that if I put this to use, I just might have some options. And they suggested something, and every time I started feeling depressed, I would say to myself, "Why are you choosing to depress?" And sometimes I'd get an answer, and most often I didn't. But it didn't matter because then I would follow it up with, "Is there a better choice?" And initially, my depression would go away for an hour or two. And then I would go through that with myself again. But this is a very conscious decision that I made to do this. I didn't have to do it, and I could have chosen not to, but I had the free will to choose. And I would choose to ask myself, why are you choosing to depress? Is there a better choice? And after about a month, I was getting depressed about once a week. And after about 3 months, I was rarely getting depressed, maybe once a month or two. It started to spread out. And at this point, I haven't had to ask myself that question for a very long time. I do not choose to depress.
That's a good point you bring up, Amy. And as a woman, you bring to mind another aspect that I want to throw out there, and that is the monthly cycle of women and men as well, by the way. We have monthly cycles where various hormones are higher and lower levels.
Hmm.
Women, obviously, on the more extreme end. So when you have particular hormones, chemicals flooding your body that are causing actions and reactions in your brain synapses, again, I ask, where is your free will?
Well, you're probably asking the wrong person because I have had men more than once be amazed that I never displayed any such behavior changes.
Well,
I would
nevertheless, you recognize that that is a problem. And when you
Well,
talk
and
about,
I agree that again, there are things that are outside of our control.
okay,
However, when it hits, uh, one could make the conscious choice to watch one's behavior and not relinquish one's conscious free will to the effects that one is experiencing. And that, I think, has a lot to do with my choice of depression
Ch-
too.
Charles, what say you? What do you think of this?
what say you, child?
What this notion of free will versus determinism? Since that's what we're talking about, what do you think?
I think it's a mix. Like you said, sometimes ideas pop into our head, and then you see things like, for example, my bro, he's a lecturer in physics, and he was talking in computer science, and he was talking about FAT32, the old system, right, of hard drives. And when he said that, he said a fat person walked in, and the fat person thought he was talking about him. So we're driven by synchronicity, but we're also we do have some kind of freedom with our thoughts and to control our thoughts, but we can't choose not to have someone stop annoying us and then not react to that. You know what I mean? Like because we can't control other people. and so the universe is sort of controlling other people and their interaction with us, and they have and those and that has the power to make us angry or sad depending on whatever.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Yep.
You disagree that you can't control other people?
I disagree that you can't, that they make you do something. You
No, hang on, hang on. Let him finish.
It's because, Amy, the reason we're asking the reason no one has ever come up with the answer to the question, do we have free will or not? I think it's because we have both. It's both determinism and it's both free will. So and the fact that words exist for both of them shows that both exist. What do you think, Amy?
Well, I'm going to say that makes some sense.
I have a saying, and it applies beautifully to this, and it's whether we're fated or have free will. I never remember being given a choice between the two.
I'm just going to say that there have been times when somebody has said something to me, and I have felt that rush of emotion that I might get angry or whatever. And I have said to myself, you have a choice here. You can let this get to you, or you can let go of it and let it pass. And I will not say always, sometimes I fail to get to that point, but usually I manage to go, okay, I will let go of this and let it pass.
This all brings to mind a quote, and I think it's, forgive me if I get the author of the quote wrong, I think it's Albert Einstein who said, and by the way, I think this applies beautifully to the free will argument. Reality is an illusion, so just interchange reality with free will. Reality is an illusion, albeit a persistent one.
Yeah, I do believe that was Einstein. One
I get down with that.
I must ponder that, insofar as I certainly believe that what we see on the news is an illusion, but then I think that that's been deliberately created.
Yeah, that's surface level. That's surface level reality.
I've got a response to Einstein's quote, and it goes like this: if an illusion is as good as reality, is it really even an illusion?
So now
Good. I love it.
So now you just took us into the realm of solipsism.
How did that trigger you in that way?
Because there's an argument for actually it's an argument against solipsism. Okay, so for those who, for those who listening who might not know, solipsism is the idea of the matrix, a brain in a vat. Okay, that none of this is real, that we're the product of some computer program somewhere, or we're the product of some godly mind. Whatever we're experiencing is not actually real. That concept, right? That nothing is real. That's solipsism.
I like how you expanded on that. I was gonna try and add to that, but you did it perfect.
Okay, so that's solipsism. So there's an argument against solipsism, and it fits perfectly with what you said, Killendel, and that is, regardless of whether or not solipsism is true, regardless of the fact that I might be a brain in a vat, and this whole experience of life might be in a complete illusion, even when I bump my elbow and I feel pain when I do so, might be an illusion. It might be computer inputs, electrical inputs to a brain sitting in a jar somewhere. That is irrelevant to the fact that I still have to deal with the pain when I bump my elbow. It's still irrelevant. Even if solipsism is true, even if I am a brain in a vat, I still have to deal with the realities of the nature that I'm given.
Yep.
Yes, and that's why I used to like really be solipsistic without even knowing about it in a way. But it is ultimately a depressing psychology perspective, because it's nothing is real but you is so invalidating to the experience of reality
I
and
know,
to the
right?
experience of the individuals of your
Yes.
reality.
And it's
Um,
invalidating to love.
yes, and
You know,
it creates the worst kind of sociopathy, in my opinion. People who
yes,
invest
you
in
know,
solipsistic.
if
But
nothing, if you believe nothing exists but you, why care?
So does
Why?
determinism, by the way.
Yeah.
it's basically determinism. It is. It's just saying I'm a product of my reality. My reality is supporting exactly who I am, and it's making me who I am, and it's just it starts winding it up into like this overly godlike, what's the word, um complex, god complex. Yes.
Yes.
uh and people who have messiah complexes are also very solipsistic, um and
Yes.
it's but it ultimately, when you really think about it, it just can't be the case. It's
You
just kind of,
know, that's amazing you said that because you sparked a thought that I remember from scripture. I am that I am. And that's exactly right. A messiah complex does that. It
yeah.
gives you a solipsistic base for existence. I am that I am. In other words,
Well, I interpret that a little differently.
rather than who was it, Descartes, who said, "I think, therefore I am," or was that Aristotle?
I
but
think that was
but
Descartes.
that's not entirely wrong. I mean, Alan Watt, you triggered an Alan Watts memory in me, Rufus. He says, "I am that I am," which is the name of God. And I mean, like, if God is everything, then you are definitely God, you
If
know?
if consciousness is God and we are therefore
Well, the Bible clearly says God is
co
everything and from
co
himself made
co
everything.
co-gods
Co-creators.
co-creating the now.
Yeah.
Yes. We are the
Um,
co-creators.
and that was like the real message of Jesus, that I think that was so radical, was him telling people like, hey, you are, like, yes, I am the son of God, but you are my brothers and sisters, like we are
Actually,
all children of God, not
to
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 like idolize him like that.
to my awareness, he never said he was the son of God. He said he was
Right.
the son of man.
That I don't know, like, what to believe in or rely upon in that whole thing, but
No, Amy,
the
no, he did identify himself as the Son of God. He said, "You cannot get to the Father but through me."
Well, yeah, I understand that that is interpreted to mean that, and I can see how that could be interpreted as that, but he never said specifically, I am the son of God.
No, he never said
He
what's
those
said, I
Charles
am
things.
the
grinning
son of
about?
man.
What's Charles grinning about over there? He's got a thought.
Come on, Charles, pipe up.
It up now, but yeah, the conversation's beautiful, and thanks for the convo. Yeah, as for Jesus being the Son of God or Son of Man, I can't quite remember what the Bible says, and didn't this questions like this open the way for all these schisms and heresies and things like that? Because the Bible isn't exactly explicit, because no one really knows. Yeah,
I mean, do you really want to rely upon the Bible, which was concocted by channelers?
No, no, I don't.
We don't. Well, I wouldn't classify them as channelers. How do you know? You don't know that they were channelers. They could have just been
the New,
Jewish. Go ahead, Charles.
it's part biography. The New Testament, it's like it's not quite. I've actually got a theory that a few early books of the Quran are the actual New Testament of the early Christians, and because they're the ones that talk about doing good, and that's a very Christian thing. You don't see that in the New Testament, but the New Testament books are definitely biographies made for mass consumption. As for Book of Revelation, I guess that is channeled or something, or he was on drugs or something. But
Oh,
um,
the Book of Revelation is nothing but an acid trip in text form.
well, it is. Yeah,
Maybe it was
Uh,
psilocybin.
it is. Yeah. Anyway, I'm heading
well,
off. Thanks so much.
Charles, it's always a pleasure. We love having you around, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful.
Cheers,
Have a good
Rufus.
night, man.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. Cheers. Nice to meet you as well. All right.
Yes, definitely.
Very good, Charles. Thanks. Have yourself a good rest of your day.
You too.
I feel
I
like I was
do.
probably a little too crazy for Charles' taste.
Oh
I
no,
don't think so. No, no, no,
not
no.
you. Obviously, don't know Charles.
Yes.
I mean, look, it's 12 o'clock. He's been with us since 7, 5 hours of his time. So
Yeah, he's
actually,
got things to do.
actually, it was 6:30. So we were chatting 30 minutes before we went live. So 5.5 hours. I can't
Yeah,
ask for more than that.
no, he just needed to get running. He's got
Gotcha.
things in, he's in Australia, and so he got on about 9:30 his time, and it's Saturday, and I'm
Yeah,
sure he wanted to move on
yeah,
and get his universe
yeah.
together.
The window behind him was bright and sunny, and now it's dark, and so obviously, it's
Right, like talk about like all the alchemy in that. Was that free will or determinism? Was something within him binding him to this podcast? Or was he like really intent on listening? Really wanted to hang on there, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm sorry. I had to do it.
no. I mean, that's a good question, and I guess the only person to answer that would be him. So we can speculate all day long.
That's true. I think I'll pass
Yeah.
on the speculation, however. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
You must be pretty winded too, you guys. I don't want to tie you up too long. I mean, that
Well,
was
I
a
was just
beautiful discussion. I
yeah,
loved it.
I was just thinking that I might want to also it's actually 44 minutes past my bedtime.
Yeah, it's
So,
almost 12 my time.
yeah, well, that's almost 12
Yeah.
my time, and I like to go to bed around 11.
This is probably a
So,
perfect place to call it. I usually don't have much
yeah.
steam in me anyway.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the discussion with you, Killendel. I think that you and I see things very close to the same way. Maybe some differences, but small ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that we had a pretty similar experience. Not exactly the
Yep.
same, definitely not. But it was interesting when you went into that.
You're going, gee, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. When you have an
All right.
experience like that, I think that it really shifts your perspective. Anyway, you have a good night and love always.
Yeah, it was good catching up with you, Killendel, and we'll see you around. I'm always in touch. You know how to get a hold of me.
Most definitely. Yeah. You know what I wonder about, Amy, really quick, is if that's
Yes.
like a prefrontally loaded concept, maybe from like a movie or something we once saw. So I wonder about that, but
What my experience?
not yours particularly, but mine when I had that
Oh,
experience in
yeah,
the
I
movie.
don't
If
know
I like
because
saw a movie or something.
mine was like totally nothing like I had ever even conceived of before. And I was like, wow, okay, that was something I could never have expected in any way, shape, or form. But it
Hmm.
definitely made my grasp of how my work was to proceed. And that is to get enough people withdrawing consent and consenting to better.
I do like a lot of your ideas on things. Actually, we have very similar perspective. I on many different things. But I
Awesome.
gotta go. I'm gonna let you
Yeah.
guys go.
Okay.
Wonderful talking to you. Have a good night.
Yeah, I hope to talk to you again.
Catch you next time around, Maddie. Be good.
All right. Have a good night. Bye bye.
Right on. So I guess I'll engage the chat for a minute, Amy. Um,
Yeah.
it's already past your bedtime.
Yeah.
What happened with Gandalf? He had to run off.
Yeah, I guess he had something he had to do. He didn't really say anything, but the way he tried to shut it down at 10 and
I,
I
s- I,
and then
s-
and
I saw a little message pop up from him said he mentioned he had to get out. Um,
Yeah.
but
Okay. Yeah, I missed it, I guess. I haven't been focused much on the chat tonight. I was initially, but then things got hot and heavy and I totally forgot to look, so.
well, we got like 25, 26 people chilling out with us right now, and we were up to 40 at our peak when we were hot and
Yes.
running around with Charles. So decent audience tonight, and thanks everybody for checking us out and hanging out. And most of you are regulars. Anybody with a wrench, obviously regulars, and we got a whole bunch of new people tonight. So thanks for that.
Yeah. It's been absolutely awesome, and I'm hoping that people who haven't been here before do check out my channel.
CFAPS 7865 YouTube vid. Do you know who CFAPS is?
Yes, yes, I do.
You do?
Yes. We had a little falling out, but I'm not going to go into that.
Oh, okay. When am I going to have Jordan Maxwell again? I don't know. I'm in contact with Jordan. I've got him on Skype. Haven't spoken to him since, the show 2 weeks ago. I'm busy and he's busy, but I am in contact with Jordan. We will have him back. And with a little bit of luck, maybe I can afford to take the RV and go all the way out to either do one of two things: either see him at his last public appearance, or maybe, fingers crossed, potentially pick him up and
Take him there.
escort him to his final public appearance. So we're working on that one. It's up in the air, but I don't know. Any other? Let's see what else we have here. You like that channel, CFAPS? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and copy that.
I think it's CF apps.
Yeah, I'm sure.
CFAPs just brings something very wrong to mind.
Dang it!
I'm sorry.
I wish the chat would stay still long enough for me to click the copy button.
CF apps.
Stay. Copy. Got it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can.
We've had Zach.
Okay.
I if you check out my channel, you'll see why I would rather not speak with the man. And I'll leave it at that.
Oh, I just gave him a subscription, so I'll go check out CFAPS. CFAPS. The icon actually looked a little bit familiar.
Yeah, he does some very good work, but we didn't see eye to eye on something.
No, I don't think we'll
And
be having Zach Hubbard. We've had Zach Hubbard on here like 3 times already.
yep.
And yeah, I'm not gonna talk shit, but no,
Yeah.
I don't anticipate having Zach on here again.
I don't either.
When and where is Jordan Maxwell's last appearance?
It's in oh gosh. It's just outside of Las Vegas. I've been through the place.
It's in what was it, Reno, Nevada?
No, not Reno. No.
Um,
It's just outside of Las Vegas. Um
it's at the Aquarius Hotel. It's called MegaCon, I think. I think it's called MegaCon. I know it's at the Aquarius Hotel,
Laughlin.
Laughlin. It's in Laughlin, Las Vegas, February 14th.
Not Laughlin, Nevada. Not Laughlin, Las Vegas.
Uh, February, I think 14th through 22nd. It's a 7-day conference. I know that it's at the Aquarius Hotel, Laughlin, Nevada, February 14th through 22nd of next year. What else? That's pretty much it, I guess. But Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Jordan actually, I don't know how serious he was. I'll follow up and see how serious he was, but
Yeah, I hope. I
no,
may have a bit more to work with by then and may be able to pay my own way. We'll see how it goes.
now I got to know what happened with Zach Hubbard. Just we
Just go to my channel and look for my Skype conversation with Zachary K. Hubbard, and that will give you not all of it, but most of it relative to me.
suffice to say there was a falling out, and he
Yes.
turned into a dick.
Yes. Oh, big time.
Yeah, big
Yeah,
time.
that doesn't cover the
And
dicky.
it was related to the fact that Amy was asking legitimate questions about what he was doing with the donation money.
Yeah, the money that he said he would use the first $33,000 for a site for truth. And after spending just under $2,400 after collecting about 20,000, the rest of the money just kind of disappeared. And I have problems with that. Anyway,
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. So he was taking donations to start a website that never became of anything. And when people were starting to question him about what he was doing with the money that he was already collected, it was like $16,000 or twenty
well,
thousand dollars.
he collected 16,000 on GoFundMe, and we estimate about another 5,000 on PayPal.
Yeah, so there was at least 20 grand that he had collected, and people started wondering what's he doing with the money. There was no website.
Well,
There's still no
no,
website.
there was a website. He spent two guys said that they would uh donate their time and effort to create the website. They just wanted money for the server, the cost of the server and the services that were offered there.
Yeah.
And so he spent a little under $2,400. And after the site was up and running about, I don't know, 4 months, he came in and basically sabotaged the site. First of all, he was virtually never there. He'd pop in and
Yeah,
drop.
we don't need all the details.
Okay.
Bottom line is
Bottom line is,
when we started asking, well, Amy started asking.
yeah, many people came and asked me about, they gave him this money specifically for the site. And after he sabotaged it, he started talking about it, just writing it off as a loss, and that he was going to use the money for other things.
And then started attacking Amy and anybody who questioned what happened with the money.
Yep. He would
In a
pop
real
it.
dickish way.
He would pop into videos that I'd left a comment on, nothing to do with him. I mean, I
And then
just
he started trolling you.
and he started trolling me. Yes, yes, he did. He started, you old hag, and don't listen to her. She's a
Yeah, it turned into a
and
fucking
all
troll.
kinds of stuff. And
Yeah,
this,
for real.
that went on for a couple of months before
Well,
he
there it
finally
is.
started leaving me alone.
So there it is. That's what happened with Zach.
Yep. And we never did find out what happened to the rest of the money. It just sort of dropped off the radar, and that was that.
Yeah, he said this. He said the designer sabotaged it. No, that's probably not what happened, because
Nope.
if he was an honest individual, he wouldn't act that way when we were questioning him about what he was doing with the money and what's going on. He wouldn't turn into a huge asshole the way he did, just for asking what's going on. So no, that's probably not what actually happened. Whatever he said happened.
No, I was there.
No.
We were getting along just fine on the site. Everybody was, working together and talking about this. And yeah, okay. There were some people who were flat earth. There were other people who were not, and flat earth came up a fair amount. There was this area we talked about flat earth, and
yeah,
all the problems with that. And then he came in and said that that the flat earthers had taken over and he's just the site's ruined and he's not going to put any more money into it because the flat earthers took over. And it's like, no, they didn't. They absolutely did not.
Yeah.
Like I said, some were talking about it. Most of us were talking about the news and running numbers on events and all that, which is,
Change the
so yeah.
subject. I'm done.
Change of subject. Yes, good idea. Actually, I'm done. I want to go to bed.
Yep. All right,
So,
Amy.
love you much.
All right.
Thank everybody in the audience for listening in.
Yeah.
I appreciate it and love always.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate everybody hanging out with us, and be good to each other and pick up your damn trash. I'm going to go ahead and kill the stream. We'll see you next week. We have Global Agenda. We're going to talk about Greta Thunberg. We're going to talk about the upcoming Seattle potential, whatever that may be. Could be a false flag that Seattle is back in attention. Everybody is saying that something could happen on November 3rd. Or November 3rd. So we have Global Agenda on November 1st. And I have a piece. Oh, he's gonna like this. Amy, this is unless Mark is listening. Spoiler alert. I got a little gem of information to give to Mark when we see him next week.
Awesome.
There's a transit of Mercury. There's a Mercury transit. You know what a transit means, right?
Yes, across the sun.
Okay. So Mercury transit happens on guess what day? November 11th.
November 11th. Well,
11/11.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, we'll be seeing him on 11/1, which is only 3 ones, but
Yeah, but he's gonna like that. It's 11/11. So there's a Mercury transit happening on 11/11. We got Global Agenda next week, and we got Analogical the week after that. So thanks everybody, and I'm gonna shut it down. It's 12 o'clock. You all be good, and do pick up your fucking trash. Jesus Christ, pick up your fucking trash. Stop it. Just stop it.
yes.
All right, you guys. See you next week.